Hello and welcome to the craft room here in my 1902 farmhouse. My name is Alicia with Country Mama Musings, and today we're getting together to complete block 53 for our Heirloom Afghan crochet along. Block 53 is the crossed puffed stitch. Isn't this beautiful? So grab your supplies and let's get started. So we're going to be using our size H crochet hook and whatever color you've determined to be color B for your Afghan. For me, that is gray. We're going to go ahead and start with a slip knot, leaving a nice long tail to sew in later. And we're going to chain 25. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 23, 24, and 25. Let's move on to row 1. We're going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook and in each chain across. So not counting the loop that's on our hook, we're skipping the first chain and we're going to single crochet in the second chain right here. Single crochet in the next chain and continue placing a single crochet in each chain across until you get to the end. You will have 24 single crochet. I'll meet up with you there. 23. And don't forget your last chain right here for our 24th single crochet for row 1. Let's move on to row 2, and this is where we're going to be completing our crossed puff stitch sequence. For row 2, we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. And according to our pattern, this is going to count as our first double crochet. Now we're going to turn our work. We're going to skip the next single crochet. This is the next single crochet, not here, because this is connected to this single crochet. This double crochet counts as being actually worked in this single crochet that we completed here. This is our next single crochet. We're going to skip that next single crochet and we're going to work a puff stitch in the next single crochet after that, right here. And this is how we're going to complete this stitch. We're going to yarn over and go into the single crochet, making sure we go through both the front loop and the back loop. And we're going to grab that yarn and we're going to pull it back through and we're going to kind of pull it up even with our work. We're going to do that 4 times. So that's 1, yarn over into the stitch and pull back through a loop. There's 2. Make sure you give it that little tug. Yarn over into the stitch, grabbing a loop and pulling it back through, giving it a little tug. There's 3. Yarn over into the stitch, grabbing our yarn and pulling it back through. There's 4. We should have a total of 9 loops on our hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Making sure we give it that last little final tug, we're going to yarn over and we're going to pull through all 9 loops. Make sure you get that last one. It's a little tricky. There we go. We've got it. Now we've created a puff stitch. The name of our pattern is the crossed puff stitch. So now what we're going to do is we're going to work around the puff stitch that we just made, and we're going to work a puff stitch over here in this single crochet that we skipped. We're not going to do anything to close this off. We're not going to chain to close this puff. We're just going to go right back into our pattern and go back to this one that we skipped and complete a puff stitch. So yarn over, going back to that single crochet. Make sure you get the front loop and the back loop. It's a little difficult to see here in our tutorial, but I have gone through both the front loop and the back loop. There it is right there. Do you see? Right there. Yarn over and pull your yarn back through that stitch and pull up a loop. Again, we're making it to where we can bring the level of our work back up. So there's one. Yarn over, go back in that same stitch, pull up a loop, give it a little tug. That's 2. We're going to do it 4 times. Yarn over into the stitch, grabbing our yarn and pulling it back through. There's 3. And you can see when you pull, you automatically just bring it up to the same level. Yarn over into the stitch, pulling up a loop. There's 4. Do you see how it just pulls up really nice to that level? We've completed our 4 entries into the stitch, so we have 9 loops on our hook. Yarn over, pull through all 9 loops. And now we've got our original puff stitch here and a cross puff stitch here. Let's continue on. We're going to skip the next single crochet, which is right here. You have to pull your work aside a little bit, see where you're at. It's hidden because we've crossed over, but right here, we've worked in this stitch with our first puff right there. So we're going to go to this stitch here and we're going to skip it. Going to the next stitch, we're going to work a puff. So yarn over into that stitch, grabbing our yarn and pulling it back through, and you want to give it a tug. Remember, we're bringing our work up level with where we're working here. So we're going to do this 4 times. That's 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're going to yarn over and pull through all those loops on our hook. Again, this very first one that kind of hangs out here by itself, don't skip that one, don't forget it. And there we've completed a puff stitch. We're going to go back to this single crochet that we skipped, and we're going to work a puff stitch here. So yarn over, and it's a little difficult, but go back to that skipped stitch, that single crochet right there. Go through, double check to make sure you got both the front loop and the back loop on there. Grab your yarn and pull it back through that stitch and give it a tug and pull it up level to your work. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Give it that last little tug. Pull your yarn all the way through after you yarn over to close up that puff, and there we have our second series of our crossed over puff stitch. I'm not going to lie, this is a little hard on the hands, and you do have to hold your work at a funny angle, but you can do it. And again, it's just a beautiful on both sides. They look like little hearts, don't they? Beautiful little stitch. Moving on, we're going to skip the next single crochet. We're going to work in the single crochet after that, and we're going to complete our puff stitch. So into that stitch, going through both the front loop and the back loop, we're going to pull up 4 times. Here's 1, making sure that you give it a little tug. Yarn over, grab your yarn and pull it back through. There's 2. Yarn over, pull up a loop. There's 3. Yarn over, pull up a loop. There's 4. Yarn over and pull through all 9 loops on your hook, completing your first puff. Yarn over, go back to the single crochet that you skipped, enter that stitch, double checking to make sure that you get both the front loop and the back loop right there. Grab your yarn and pull it back through and give it a tug and bring that up level to your work. We're going to do that 4 times. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yarn over and pull through all 9 loops that are on your hook, and there we've completed our 3rd cross puff stitch. You're going to continue this all the way down till you get to the end of row 1. This is your row 2. Row 1's down here. Work this all the way down to the end, and I will meet up with you when we get to the end, and we'll see how we finish off this row. See you there. I've reached the end of row 2 and I've completed my final crossed puff stitch. I have 1 single crochet left right here at the end. Don't forget this. Again, with the symmetry of our blocks, we started with a double crochet here at this end. We're going to end with a double crochet here at this end. So just go ahead and place a double crochet in that final single crochet here at the end. Now it's a little tricky, but make sure you get that stitch and make sure you get both the front loop and the back loop and complete that double crochet. Let's take a look at row 2. This is a very thick, full, squishy stitch, isn't it? And if you have just a little bit of a curve, don't worry about it. It's going to work itself out as we work the block. Let's see what we've got here as far as our puff stitches. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. This double crochet is stitch 23 and this double crochet is stitch 24. We want to make sure that we started with 24 single crochet from the last row and we ended with 24 stitches here for our crossed puff stitch. Let's put our hook back onto our work and move on to row 3. Hey, are you enjoying putting together all of the beautiful heirloom sampler blocks for our heirloom Afghan crochet along? If so, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel, give this video a thumbs up, check out the playlist that has all of the videos for every block for our crochet along, and be sure to share the video with your friends that like to crochet. Okay, let's get back to our project for this week. For row 3, we're going to chain 1 and turn. So there's our chain 1, and we're going to turn our work. We're going to single crochet in each stitch across. So looking here at the top of our work, you can see the little V's for our stitches. We're going to work a single crochet in each stitch across for a total of 24 across. Don't miss the first one. Here's our chain, but here's our first stitch. So we're going to place a single crochet. Here's 1, 2. Make sure you get both the front loops and the back loops. These are fairly easy to find with these puff stitches. Here's 3, 4, 5. And look what this does now. Look how these puff stitches are pulled up. You see how they're kind of flat? Once you get these single crochets in, just kind of pulls them together and it gives them these really almost like a fisherman's knot look. Really, really pretty. So I'm going to continue my single crochets all the way to the end of the row and I'll meet up with you there. 23. And don't forget that our chain up 3 here from that last row, that counts as a double crochet. We need to place a single crochet in the top of this stitch for our 24th single crochet. Do your best to get 2 loops when you go through that top chain there and complete your final single crochet for that row. And let's take a look at row 3. Row 3 has really done its job by pulling all of our pretty puffs together. And yes, they're going to look a little ununiform, shall we say, but that's okay. Let's move on to row 4. And this is what I want to tell you about this particular pattern. You're going to repeat row 3 for row 4 and row 5. So we're going to have 3 rows of single crochet. So we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. And starting right here in this very first single crochet, we're going to place a single crochet. Again, making sure that we go through both the front loop and the back loop. We're going to work a single crochet in every stitch across for row 4. We're going to do this again for row 5. So I'm going to repeat row 3 for this row 4. I'm going to do it again for row 5, and I will meet up with you at the end of row 5. I'll see you there. 23, and 24. So here we've completed rows 3, 4, and 5. So let's move on with our block. Our block is now going to be a repeat of rows 2 through 5. So we're going to go back to row 2. We're going to complete our crossed puff stitches, and then we're going to do 3 rows of single crochet. So row 2, 3, 4, and 5. We're going to repeat those for the remainder of our block. So again, for row 2, we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and we're going to turn our work. We're not working in this single crochet because this chain 3 counts as a double crochet and it's connected to this stitch here. We're going to skip the next stitch and we're going to work our first puff in the stitch after that, remembering that we're going to do this sequence of grabbing our loops and pulling them back through 4 times. 3, 4. We have 9 loops on our hook. Yarn over and pull through all 9 loops. Going back to the stitch that we skipped, we're going to do that sequence again and again. It's difficult to hold. You have to kind of turn at an angle. Don't forget to yarn over. Go into that skipped stitch, making sure you get both the front loop and the back loop, and pull your yarn back through and pull it up even, and we're going to do that 4 times. 2, 3, and 4. Making sure you give those tugs, pull that through all 9 loops on your hook, creating your crossed puff stitch. Skipping the next single crochet, going to the one after that, working our first puff there. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yarn over, go through all 9 loops on your hook. Yarn over and work a puff in the stitch that you skipped. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yarn over and pull through all 9 loops on your hook. And here we have our next sequence of crossed puff stitch started. I'm going to continue on to the end of the row, and then I'm going to repeat rows 3, 4, and 5 again. I'm going to continue this sequence until I get about halfway done with my block, and I'll meet up with you there. I've repeated rows 2 through 5 2 more times here, and we're at about a little bit more than the halfway point of our block. So I just wanted to stop and check in here and see how things are looking. We have nice straight edges. Our work is not pulling in and it's not veering out. We want to make sure that we always have 24 stitches across our rows here, and we're going to have our double puff stitches with 3 rows of single crochet in between. Now, I don't know about you, but this has been one of the hardest squares I've worked on for this Afghan. Not mentally, but physically. My fingers are aching. I don't know if it's because it's a rainy day. I don't know what's going on, but my fingers ache completing this block. I'm glad I've only got a little bit more to go. However, if you're finding that your fingers are aching, and this is not medical advice, I'm not a massage therapist at all, but my mother was. And I know that when she would work on a piece, she would just take her fingers and just kind of stretch them towards her. And just give your fingers a nice stretch if you need to. Don't push too far. You can press them back. Give them a little bit of a forward fold. Just stretch your fingers out if you're aching. I am. Now, if your wrist is hurting a little bit, you can take that stretch a little bit deeper into your wrist. Again, I'm not a massage therapist. This is not medical advice. Just a little tip if you're starting to feel the constraints of working on this block. My fingers are aching. Stretch those fingers out. Wiggle them out a little bit in between the rows. And let's work together to get through this one. I know we can do it. According to our pattern, we're going to have these crisscrossed puff stitches 5 times. So I have 2 more repeats to complete. I'll meet up with you when I get those done, and we'll see how our block is looking. I'll see you there. I'm going to finish up my very last cluster of this block. I've worked this row 2 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I wanted to come back here because I don't want you to repeat rows 3, 4, 5 again. We're going to finish this row of clusters. Then we're going to do just one row of single crochet across. And why we're doing that is because down here we started with just one row of single crochet, and again we're looking for that symmetry. We don't want just one row here and then a big long row of 3, 4, 5 up here when we finish our block. So I'm going to put this last cluster in here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and pull through all of those, and then I'm going to go right here to the one that we skipped. Here's 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I cannot tell you how happy my fingers are to be done with that. One final double crochet right here at the end, and our final row 2 is done. Oh my gosh, did you guys survive that one? I felt that, my goodness. I'm going to go ahead to chain 1 and turn my work, and I'm going to complete this final row of single crochet across the top, and I'll meet up with you when I get done with the end of this row. "21, 22, 23, and remember we've got to place a double crochet here in this chain 3 that counted as a double crochet. 24. Now remember, this is the right side of your work. You want these crossed puff stitches to really stand out when you put your Afghan together. So go ahead and don't turn your work. Work your first round of edging around in the same color that you've worked your block, and then finish that off and complete round 2 of your edging in color A, or whatever color you've determined to join your Afghan together with. Once you've completed both round 1 and round 2 of your edging, there's only one thing left to do, and that's get yourself a little tag. Mark this as week 53, the crossed puff stitch in color B, and go ahead and place this with your other blocks until we're ready to put our Afghan together. Thank you so much for joining me here on the farm today. Until I see you next time, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and have a blessed day. Bye-bye.